Fine suits, fancy cars, hot girls, arrogant marketing, hyping up things. This is the kind of stuff that used to work many years ago to sell products, where marketers used to use all of this stuff to attract people who are vulnerable and get them to buy their products just to showcase how great their lifestyle is. But today, people are smart enough. Human consciousness has evolved. And of course, there is a small category of people who will fall for that stuff. But today, people are looking for authenticity. They're looking for real value. Because they have experienced all of this over the years. And today, I'm going to talk to you about sales. How to approach sales in the most ethical way. How to build trust the most ethical way. And more importantly, how do you create value and how do you create a value exchange with whatever you're doing using some models I want to share with you. I used to be that way. I used to fall for that. I bought so many products online where somebody was showcasing that they were on some yacht or going on a fancy private jet and what kind of lifestyle they're living, only to come to know later that it was just a show. It was not the real thing. They were not living that real lifestyle. It was all an internet marketing, digital marketing gimmick that they were doing just to attract an audience. And I bought many products like that. And after I bought the product, once I go and actually consume that product, I'm talking about like 5-6 years or more than 6-7 years ago. After I consumed that product, I was like, I could have got this even on YouTube in a much better way. So this is examples of people who hype things up and sell things. And of course, they made a lot of money doing this kind of stuff, or what you call as scams and shams, and people who just blow things out of proportion, not really giving the real value. And I'd like to compare this like when you walk into a store and let's say the store is so beautifully decorated, but when you go into that store and you see that the product is not even worth it or valuable, and when you buy that product, when you leave that store, you experience something called buyer's remorse. BUYERS REMORSE, buyer's remorse. Buyer's remorse is where you feel, man, I wasted my money on this. Now that is something that I don't want any of you here watching to sell, any of those kind of products. The purpose of this video is to help you understand that there is another way to sell. There is a new way of unselling first before you sell your product so that you get the right quality people into your community. Because what ends up happening is, because when people buy products by being hyped into it, they do not end up getting any results. Because the person who has sold that product, they did it only for their own personal interests. That means I'll do whatever it takes to manipulate sales and get the sale. And we have seen this in many marketers, even in our Indian coaching industry, where they use things like, they get into arrogance mode, like I'm greater than the other person. They flash their income and say, see how many crores I've made. Or they say that, my model is better than the other person's model. Okay. Other models are losing models. My model is a winning model. Like this kind of arrogance marketing that we've seen in the industry over the last few months or the last few years are also examples of how people who get into those systems, they also experience buyer's remorse in one way or the other. They'll be like, okay, this person is talking like this, let me go into it. And then they experience the product and they're like, this is not what I subscribed for. Now, how do you deal with this situation? I'm going to tell you 2 stories and my journey of how I learned the essence of selling the right way. It was the year 2017. I went for this training program, 5-day program, where on day number 4, I learned on how to sell from a stage, platform closing, how to close from the stage. So I was given a particular template and the lead trainer was asking me to practice that template and I had to follow the template. But I was going all over the place. I was being overly creative and thinking like, oh, I already know what I have to do. And the trainer, he said, stop, get out of the stage. I don't want to see this again. Because I was not following the template. And that ego in me kicked in. I was like, who is this person? And I felt that was not the right thing that he should have done to just pull me out of the stage. It was a small group, but he pulled me out of the stage because I was not following the template. So I came out of the stage, I sat, and the next person went on. But in my heart, I was feeling really bad. Why did this person do this to me? I was actually giving it my best. So what if I'm going a little bit here and there? Why is he so stuck up? I was thinking like this. In fact, he said, are you even coachable? He asked me that question. That hurt me even more. This was in the year 2017, December. Exactly a few months after that, I got an opportunity to speak in an event in Johannesburg in South Africa. I had to pay for my own tickets, my flights, my hotel, my stay, and it was an internet marketing conference where more than 10 or 11 speakers were there, and I was the only speaker from India, where I had to fly and go on my own expenses. And in that event, I had to sell a 3-day program. And in that 3-day program, I had to offer my services, and only that way I could recover my cost. So I flew to Johannesburg. It was the first time I went to South Africa, landed over there. It was 2017, okay? 2016 was when this event happened in December, and 2017 is when this event happened. So I went to South Africa, 800 people in the room. Whatever I had learned on the teaching part, I started to apply those templates. It was a 90-minute talk. 60 minutes, I did my thing. Spoke about social media, a lot of energy in the room, a lot of high fives, and I did my, like how I would normally conduct a workshop. And then it had come to the point where I had to sell now. I had to sell to a room of 800 people, and I had to sell my 3-day workshop. So I started the sales pitch. I spoke about the 3-day workshop. I said what they're going to be learning on those 3 days and what's the price and what's it going to be. And I said, go to the back of the room, register right now. And guess what happened? 800 people in the room. I got 0 sales. Nobody bought. There was one person who stood up. He was going to go at the back, and he saw nobody was going to buy my product, my workshop, and he also sat down. And I had to use that fake smile and just walk out of the stage. But on that day, I was crushed. My ego was crushed. And the words that that trainer told me a few months ago was ringing in my ears. Are you even coachable? Because he was right. I was not coachable. I did not follow the selling template. Then I went back to the room and I looked at whatever my presentation was, and I was not following the template. And I went and reworked all of my slides, because a couple of months after that, I had to speak in another event here in New Delhi, in India. There were 600 people in the room. And this time, I made sure that I followed the template. Out of 600 people, 66 people bought my product. I did more than 10% conversion. We did 15 lakhs in 90 minutes. And out of the 66 people who came into my 3-day workshop, I offered my 1-year services at 2 lakh rupees. And guess what? 24 people bought my 2 lakh rupee product. And one weekend we did 48 lakhs. And on that day, I realized the power of the coaching industry. And more importantly, I realized the power of following the system when it comes to sales. Because many of you may be watching this and thinking, okay, I'm good at teaching. Anyone will buy from me. It doesn't work like that. You may be good at giving knowledge, but when it comes to delivering an offer and a sales pitch, it is a step-by-step system that needs to be followed. And I want to decode that system in this video. I have a course called the Webinar Selling Formula that I launched in the year 2019. And that is the industry-defining formula that all of the top coaches and trainers in our industry right now in India are using to create multiple lakhs and multiple crores every single year. There have been many adaptations of it, but what I put together in 2019 is the industry standard right now. And I'm going to give you a glimpse of what is our template all about. Okay. Now let's look at sales. Selling is a transfer of emotion. And people buy emotionally. Buying is always an emotional decision. We only rationalize what we buy after we have bought the product. Let's say if you want to buy a phone, it is the emotion of you owning that phone that made you buy the phone. And you rationalize it later saying that, okay, I can use it for my business, I can use it for this, I can use it for that. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand that selling and buying is emotional. And we are emotional beings, which is why bots don't buy. AI is not going to buy anything from you. Okay, keep that in mind. AI is not going to buy because we are human beings. Only humans buy from humans. And humans can buy from AI also, but AI is not going to buy from humans. Bots don't buy because buying is an emotional decision. Selling is an emotional transfer. It's a transfer of emotion. So when I said in the beginning of the video, people use fancy suits, fancy cars, flashy lifestyle, flashy income, hot girls, arrogance marketing, I'm better than you marketing, all of this stuff, right? They attract a particular category of people who are vulnerable, who end up not getting results. Now, because I've been through this journey, I decided that when I'm going to be selling, I want to first make sure that I unsell to my audience saying that I don't want your money if you're not committing to this journey. And all of my students who are in the Internal Lifestyle Hub who are actually doing extremely well, they follow my methodology because genuinely I believe that people should not invest in your products if they're not ready for it. So the first point I mentioned was selling is a transfer of emotion. Buying is also an emotional decision. And when it comes to my formula, the first step of my formula is unselling. And before unselling is to first deliver the goods. Why do I do free webinars and not paid webinars? I also have some paid webinars, but I've done it in the past. But why do I want to do a lot of free webinars? Because I want to give my knowledge for free to others. I want to first deliver the value first. So when people register for my free webinar, they come and they experience 90 minutes to 2 hours with me. I fill them up with value. For the time that they've spent with me, the value per minute, I keep it so tight that if they don't buy at the end of the webinar, that doesn't matter. They can always come back. And in some cases, if they don't buy after my webinar, some of them feel that I wish I had bought in the webinar, and they come back and they buy in the next webinar that I do. So before unselling, the most important thing is to deliver the goods and to really give people what they're looking for. Give them the solution to the problem that they're seeking. And then when it comes to the third piece, okay, we have the unselling piece, we have the value piece, and we have the third piece, which is removing resistances. I learned this many years back from one of my mentors. He says that as humans, the reason why we don't buy is because we have 3 resistances. The first resistance is the vehicle. Like for example, if I'm teaching coaching to others, digital coaching, many people are skeptical about this topic itself. They're like, why digital coaching? They have a resistance to the topic. And to overcome the resistance, I use logic, I use numbers, I share statistics, I talk about how the e-learning industry is booming, and I share a lot of data which is catering to the logical mind. So when a new person comes into my webinar and they're able to see that, wow, it makes a lot of sense, I break down that resistance of the vehicle that I'm offering them or the methodology. The second resistance that people have is they have a lot of internal fears. So they may be like, wow, digital coaching is awesome. I also want to be a coach. I also want to start a digital business. I also want to build my ecosystem. But I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do videos. I don't think I can record content. I don't think I'm a technical person. Like all of this stuff, which is your internal fears. How do you address them? I address them through stories, through emotions. I give a lot of examples of people who came into my community with absolutely no experience. They followed my system. They made multiple crores in this business. So when a person sees another person doing it, they're like, oh, if that person can do it, I can do it too. That's the second resistance. And the third resistance that we have as humans are external fears. So many people, they come to my webinar, they'll be like, wow, digital coaching is awesome. I want to be a part of it. Yes, I can do it. If that person can do it, I can do it. But I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have the tech know-how. And how do I address that? I use logic and emotion, both. I tell people, if you can just spend 60 to 90 minutes per day for the next 90 days, you can launch. And I'm there to guide you step by step. I'm here to answer your questions every single week. We have a community to support you. I put you through challenges. You get awards, you get rewards, you get recognition in the community. And then I share the emotional side of things. Like, where many people have done it. They've crossed through the barriers that you're actually feeling right now. And then once the external fears are removed, once the internal fears, external fears, and the vehicle resistance are removed, the only logical thing that is left is you got to deliver an offer. And that's point number 4, offer. How do you deliver an offer that is irresistible? For that, I have a lot of courses and a lot of templates. But in essence, an offer is where people are able to perceive the value. It is never about the price. People think that if my cost is low, more people will buy. What I've noticed is if your cost is low, more people who can't afford will only buy. Or the not so serious people will buy. And I have a whole psychology on pricing for India market, for international market. So the point here is, when you're designing an offer, don't keep the price in mind. Think about the value you're going to create in that offer. So I'll give you 2 examples. Example number 1. Hi, I'm Siddharth Rajsekar. I'm a stock market expert. And I have a 5,000 rupee course, and you can start your stock market journey with me. An example. Example number 2. Hi, I'm Siddharth Rajsekar. I'm a stock market specialist. When you pay 5,000, you can be a part of my community where every week I'll answer your questions. You have courses. I'll be putting you through a 90-day challenge, and I'll be hand-holding you. You can get support from the community whenever you need. And every week I do coaching sessions to give you better clarity. Of these 2, which one is better? The second one, right? Because the value that was created for that 5,000 rupees was way more than the previous example that I gave. The previous example is buy my course, here it is, like selling it as a commodity. But I don't sell my knowledge as a commodity. I tell all my students, don't sell your knowledge as a commodity, sell your knowledge as a community membership. So this whole repackaging of an offer will help you not only build trust, but will also help you attract the right people who are ready to get on the journey. Which leads me to the next point is, I never sell my product. I always sell the journey to where they want to go. Because people don't buy products. They buy a better version of themselves. So I have a journey that I've designed for my students. They go from starter to freedom finisher to Hall of Fame to 1 crore, 1 crore to 10 crores, 10 crore to 20 crores. And this entire journey is going to take 5 years to 6 years. And I tell people in my webinars, you know what? If you're not ready to commit yourself to this journey, I don't want your money. Keep it to yourself. If you're willing to commit to this for the next 3 to 5 years and surrender to the process, then I can help you. And then I break down the offer. I build up the products and I break down the offer and I give them the special offer price. And that comes to my next point when it comes to sales is urgency and scarcity. As humans, we are all lazy. We will never buy anything unless there is some kind of an urgency. When you go to a mall and let's say there's an offer that's saying that, okay, only today you're going to get 40% discount. Okay. Now, even though you may not even think in your mind that you want to buy that product, you go and buy because you feel that you're going to get a better value for that money because of that discount. So urgency is a limited time offer. Scarcity is limited quantity offer. Now, in a digital product, you can't do limited quantity offer. But in a digital product, you can do a limited time offer. I do limited time. If anyone buys within the time frame that they buy my product within 15 minutes, they get some other gifts and goodies. They get some other bonuses. And people who cross that timeline, they don't get those bonuses. So this way, when you're able to get your customers into a point where you've delivered the value first, you've unsold to them, you've broken down their resistances, you've delivered an offer that really is something what they want, they're able to perceive the value. And then after that, you apply this urgency and scarcity, saying that in 15 minutes, if you buy, then you're going to get this. People will just buy like crazy. And what are the benchmarks? Like in a webinar, if you're doing a free pay or a paid webinar, 10 to 20% conversion. That means if there are 100 people in a room, you can expect 15 to 20 people to buy. If your conversion is really good, if you've done the offer well. If your offer is not so good, it'll be less than 10%. Now, what I've done is over the years, I've developed many kinds of selling models for the coaching industry. The first selling model is what I call as a webinar selling formula. How can you sell within 2 hours and generate sales? And I have many of my students who have made like 1 lakh in 2 hours, 3 lakhs in 2 hours, 10 lakhs in 2 hours, depending on number of people in the room. The second formula that I've innovated is something called as a showcase selling formula. It's the same webinar selling formula, but it is designed to sell high ticket products. How you can sell a 2 lakh rupee product or a 1.5 lakh rupee product within 2 hours. I have a template for that. Then I have another selling formula called the bootcamp selling formula. How can you sell a high ticket product in 3 days? Where on day 1 you add value, day 2 you add value, day 3 you add value, and then you sell. And then I have another innovative selling formula that not many people are implementing, but those who have done it, they've been able to get amazing results. It's called the incubator selling formula, where you get some of your serious customers into an incubator for 30 days, 45 days. You give them immense value and put them to different tasks and activities. And at the end of 30 days, offer something of really premium value, like 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 5 lakh rupee kind of products. Where the incubator selling process is not a selling process, it's a selection process. Where people need to apply, they can join the incubator for free, but they got to commit to being a part of the incubator. And at the end of the incubation process, 30 days, they need to make the decision and complete the transaction. And I normally communicate that in the beginning of the incubator itself. That, you know what, it's a high ticket product that you're getting. It's a 5 lakh, 10 lakh product. But I'm going to give you an entire journey that you're going to go through for 30 days. And you got to fulfill the payment at the end of 30 days. And we put them into a group, we warm them up, and they take action. And when they get incubated and they come into the system, they are fully primed for action taking and they're able to recover their investment like in no time. So now I've shared with you all my different selling models. And I hope this has given you a lot of insight on how to look at sales. Because you don't need to do all of that hypey stuff and arrogant stuff to really prove your worth to the world, because people don't care about that. If you want to build trust, as I mentioned in the previous video, you need 3 things. You got to be authentic and be real, be genuine. Remove those masks and filters that you're wearing. Be real. 2 is present your information with a strong logic. And be clear with your students that, you know what, my product will work for these kind of people. My product will not work for these kind of people. And if you're not willing to commit yourself, don't buy my product. Like, be very clear, present information with logic. And number 3 is empathy. People need to care. People need to understand that you care for them. As I mentioned this before, people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. And if that comes through in your communication, in your videos, in your webinars, in your one-to-ones, they will be the ones who will buy from you. So trust is the first pillar. Building demand is the second pillar. Using all the techniques that I shared before this, removing people's resistances, delivering an irresistible offer, an offer that really creates a lot of value, where people can see the value based on what they're looking for. And the third pillar is building ethical funnels. Because at the end of the day, you can be charismatic, you can be flashy, you can use your arrogance and you can talk about how great you are. But ultimately, when people enter your world, they will be able to perceive who you are. If it stinks in your world, they can smell it. If the aroma is good in your world, they can feel it, they can smell it too. So it all boils down to your product. and your product is an extension of you. Because if you are unethical, if you are not working on yourself, if you think no end of the world about how great you are, people will sense that, they can perceive it, and they will quickly enter your world and they'll quickly exit your world, and they'll be like, I'm so glad I'm not with this person. Because today we are living in a world where the market has matured quite a lot over the last few years, especially in the coaching industry. And what we truly need are authentic leaders. And authenticity is not a strategy, it's a state of being. You either are or you're not. You can't say that, okay, from tomorrow I'm going to become authentic. It does not work like that. So what is the journey to authenticity? Is by being in personal development, by going through training programs, by attending different programs that allow you to discover yourself. Like for me, I went through Train the Trainer. I went through Making the Stage. I continue to go through different learnings even right now. I continue to crew and support my mentors and be always in that journey of learning, because I've said this even before, I don't aim to be the best. I aim to be the best student of my topic. And when you become the best student of your topic, you'll have deeper insights. And when you operate from that space of authenticity, empathy, logic, unselling, offer creation, removing resistances, urgency, scarcity, all the different elements, you'll be able to build ethical funnels. Funnels where when people enter your world, they can feel the magic. And most importantly, they get the result. Because the purpose of you generating a sale is not for you to just make money. The purpose of you generating a sale is so that your students are able to get the result because of the value exchange. Because sometimes when you give things for free, people will not value it. So it's important that when you add value to yourself, you'll be able to create better products. And then when your students are able to perceive that value in you, and when they give you money, that value exchange is going to increase their value, is going to help them get results. So it's all a value-based game. I hope you've got this. If you're not subscribed to this video or this channel, please subscribe right now. And I would like you to share in the comments what were your top 3 biggest takeaways from this particular lesson on sales. And what action are you going to be taking based on this? I hope you found this useful, and I will see you in the next video.